Okay, so let's begin. Welcome once again to Sunday Morning Sitting Group. I think everybody's pretty much here. And my name is Trudy. I'm the guiding teacher at InsightLA. No, the founding teacher. That means I started it, but honestly, it's the work of many hands that have created where we are today. And in this sitting group, we do about a half an hour of meditation. We have some teachings and then some chance for conversation with each other. And I look forward to this time of being with you each week. It's really a blessing. And it feels, I've always loved Sunday morning sitting group, but honestly, since we are staying at home, it has become even more important to me to get to see all of you. So that's a great pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And so we're going to begin with the meditation, and I will do some guided meditation, and then there will be some periods of stillness and silence. And it's not that the mind is going to be completely still. It's that we are actually just tuning in to whatever is happening inside. The great Burmese meditation master said that the way to be ready for the next moment, hello geese, that the way to be ready for the next moment is to be ready now. So that's what we practice when we're sitting, just to be alert, awake, and ready to learn, ready to listen to ourselves and learn and just sit quietly here. So let's sit together, find your comfortable sitting posture. And I'll ring the bell to begin. And taking a deep breath in and releasing. Just arriving here in the body. One Zen master from ancient times, from Chan tradition, Zen began as Chan in China. He used to ask himself, Zuigan, are you here? And then he would answer himself, yes. And then he would ask himself, are you awake? And then he would answer himself, yes. And then he would teach himself, do not be deceived by others. And this is a koan. What did he mean? In the context of meditation, of sitting here together, what does that mean? He's reminding himself to just be present with life as it unfolds. This breath, this quiet, this bird song, this thought or feeling. And not to be tricked or deceived into thinking that what appears in our consciousness is other. So taking another deep breath in and releasing. And any time during the meditation, you can check in with yourself. Am I here? Am I awake? Present? Ready for now? And am I aware? Am I aware of the sounds of life, the geese, whatever you may hear in the background of your life? Whatever is happening right now is the landscape of our life, ever shifting, ever changing. Am I ready to receive this moment just as it is? sitting here, wide awake, fully aware of everything that's happening, the quality and texture of this breath, the quality and texture of feelings and thoughts. Embracing them all simply because they are here, moving, forming, dissolving, appearing, disappearing. And can we sprinkle some compassion, some caring and kindness on whatever is arising and vanishing? Because it's all a reflection of our own hearts. It is not other. Just this, whatever this may be, and this. And as we come to the end of our meditation, for the next few minutes, just asking, am I here? Am I awake? Can I hold the changing appearances, everything that's arising, having its being, and vanishing? Can I hold things as they change? In this great open awareness, great openness of mind and heart. So, thank you everybody for your practice. It's wonderful to sit together. And I'm grateful to Zwigon, that ancient Zen master who woke himself up periodically during his day, not just during his sitting meditation, but when he was walking around doing various things, things that we're all doing more than we used to, like I don't know, cooking, cleaning the house, sending money to the person who used to clean the house. Uh, all these things that we are doing, we can ask ourselves in the midst of any of them, am I here? Am I awake? And then that phrase, do not be deceived by others. This is a refrain that flows in different words through all the meditative traditions, at least all the ones um, that stem from Buddhist philosophy and psychology. This is from an 11th century Tibetan master named Atisha. Explore the nature of timeless awareness. Don't be swayed by outer circumstances. Consider all phenomena to be dreams. And then from the Burmese tradition, from U Pandita, I love this one. It could really guide our life of practice. He says, we do this practice in order to develop a heart that is ready for anything. A heart that is ready for anything. And then my friend, colleague, and teacher, Joseph Goldstein, always says, anything can happen anytime. And we've certainly discovered that over these last couple months. So I want to just say a few words this morning about retreat practice in terms of staying at home, which is a kind of enforced retreat that we are all on together, and how these teachings can really help us be in this retreat, which may end, it may end in what? I think they said maybe May 15th. That's less than 2 weeks. But I feel like even when the restrictions are lifted, there's a chance that some of us may still be encouraged to stay home. And so maybe we'll be in semi-retreat at that point. I don't know. Because anything can happen anytime, and it did. And it still is. So I want to say a few words about just this being in retreat, and then how we might get ready to emerge, and in what spirit might we emerge. And it's easier now perhaps than ever to take in the teachings that encourage us not to be deceived by the appearances of that which seems to be other than ourselves, outside of ourselves, to not consider it outside of ourselves, to not hold this dualistic framework of perception. I'm here and you're there, and that's true. But something else is even truer, which is how connected we are, and how actually we are appearances in each other's lives. We are guests in each other's lives. And just as every single thing that appears in our meditation practice, we could say is a guest in our life and a guest in our meditation. And I've spoken before, and I actually love this image from Chan Buddhism of host and guest, where awareness is the host, and everything that appears in our consciousness is a guest. And what do we know about guests? Well, if they stay too long, if we entertain them too long, we usually get either bored or restless or resentful. All the hindrances arise. If they come and go, it's usually interesting and a pleasure. If we think they're going to stay forever, in other words, they're not really a guest, they're a permanent fixture of our lives. In some cases, we might be joyful about that. In some cases, we might be terrified by that, depending on the nature of the guest. But one thing that the word guests holds is that promise that it's impermanent. It's a temporary arrangement. And so it is for everything that appears in our consciousness, and so it is for our own being, for ourselves as well. Um, Yesterday we heard Rick Hansen speak. Rick is a wonderful clinical psychologist who has kind of invented the field of neurodharma, where uh, he draws on the Buddha's roadmap for awakening, and then he links it to the latest neuroscience and what we know about how we can actually change our brains and affect our bodies with our attention. And he's engaged in what he calls a kind of reverse engineering. Uh, he says it's a reverse engineering of awakening grounded in the human body. And he's been exploring the neural basis, the basis in our nervous systems for what is experienced in an awakened life. And we've all had glimpses and tastes of what is experienced in an awakened life. And he calls it a life of steadiness. This is what we practice as we sit and as we try to be less and less reactive in our everyday lives. And that's really hard in retreat, where everything is amplified. And it's very easy if you're living with others, it's very easy to take things in the wrong way usually being some distortion in our perception that comes from our earlier conditioning. If you're living alone and with yourself, it's really easy to apply the same misunderstandings to ourselves, to our own being and the things that we do and feel and how it is for us. Perceptions that are laden with judgment or comparison, that are harmful and painful to us. So in the awakened life, he calls the qualities steadiness, lovingness, fullness, wholeness. And that's what we were practicing in this last meditation, being fully, completely aware of the whole range of experiences that we have as human beings, and especially human beings in this crucible of staying at home. Fullness, wholeness, nowness, allness, and timelessness. Nowness and timelessness are very linked. Allness, fullness, wholeness have to do with this unified mindfulness, the unified awareness, the unity, the way that when we're being mindful, when we're being present, when we are awake, when we are here, we are actually united with life. We're united with what's happening. We're not separate. We're not calling it other. We are not treating it as something outside of ourselves and then projecting all our feelings onto it. It's allness, it's wholeness, it's fullness, it's being united with life as it's presenting itself to us, moment, moment, moment. And that we all know is easier said than done, because as soon as what presents itself is difficult for us, we separate, the attention gets consumed by it. And then all the fears or habitual reactivity of our emotions get layered, activated, and get layered onto that. So his work is about helping us work backwards from the states of contentment and peace, lovingness, steadiness, fullness, wholeness, all of those qualities, to help us work backward and see what's the basis in the brain, and how can we encourage the brain to abide more and more of the time in these dimensions of human life, of our experience. And that's the prayer. I quoted a little piece of it in the meditation from Wendell Berry. He says, "Move my mind now to that which holds things as they change." And that's what Zwigan is pointing us to. Are we here? It's so simple, just to be awake and here. And what is it that holds things as they change? What is it? It's our loving awareness. It's our awareness that may not be so loving, but is certainly accepting Because if it's not accepting, it's something else. It's our reactivity. It's a loving awareness. It's the one really clear thing. My teacher used to say to us, what is the one pure and clear thing? And there was a big calligraphy in the Zendo. And when we would do our walking meditation, we would walk in unison in a circle. That's how we did it in the Korean Zen tradition. And we would circle past that calligraphy over and over because it wasn't a big room. What is the one pure and clear thing? What is not deceived by others? What can understand all experiences as a dream, things that arise and have their being and vanish? Even the dream of me, the dream of this light, the dream of being here together. What is it that can experience life this way? So the way to be ready for anything is to be ready now. And this staying at home, while it is very arduous in lots of ways, to figure out how to survive, how to do our life, and to rein the mind in and stay in the nowness, the fullness and completeness of now, when the mind wants to go forward into the future, which is more unknown to more people around the globe than I would say it's ever been in recent memory. We don't know what's going to happen. Of course, we never did, but we thought we did. Things were familiar. They unfolded in a familiar way. But I spoke before of the crucible of this time. And a crucible is a vessel that can hold things as they go through their their chemical changes. And this awareness is our crucible. The staying at home is the sort of outer crucible that is secluding us from our usual activities and from each other. And this is hard. And it's like when we go into it, if you've ever gone, and I know many of you have gone to silent meditation retreats, you give things up. You sacrifice what you would have been doing if you weren't on retreat in order to take that time and be in seclusion. And so, people who are moving around a lot, I just want to ask you if you could either just put something over your screen while you have to move around, because let's see, I can see, and it's a little bit distracting. I have a brain that's very easily distracted, so thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I forgot where I was. I was talking about the unknown and how all over the globe we're facing a great unknown, greater than ever before. And the willingness to be in the unknown, to be able to be at peace with not knowing what the next moment will be. This is a great capacity. The poet John Keats called it negative capability. This ability to be with that which is not there yet, not here yet. And we could say that all of meditation practice is like what the great analyst Masood Khan used to call listening with the third ear. So what did he mean by that? We only have two. So what is that third ear? That third ear is the host. That third ear is simply awareness, sometimes called bare attention. That's that third ear. The playwright Laurie Suzanne Parks called it listening with the inner ear. And meditation practice is definitely listening with that inner ear. And that inner ear training that we're doing as we sit and be present with things, that inner ear training actually helps us locate what is truest for us. And it's usually not the projections onto our partners and the reactivity of various kinds that we go through in a day, it's usually not. What's truest for us is our heart's desire. What's truest for us is how do we develop the courage and the discipline to stay with that and not to get distracted from that, and build in the things in our lives that will support that steadiness of the heart. So I have lots of things to share with you, and I'd like to now share them in the context of some exchange with each other, some chance for you to speak and to share what's happening in your life, in your practice, in your life as it relates to your practice. And Akemi, who is kindly our moderator. Yay, thank you. Thank you, Akemi. Akemi also happens to be our volunteer coordinator at InsightLA. And don't think that just because our centers are closed, we can't use your volunteering. We really can. And Akemi will say something about that at the end. But in the meantime, if you want to speak, raise your hand. You can do it through the chat function or just physically raising your hand. And Akemi, it may take her a moment to find you, but she will find you. And then we can have some exchange. There's a couple of hands up, Akemi.
Yes. Marilyn, go ahead. I think you are,
Yeah, unmute. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your Dharma talk this morning, Trudy. Very helpful. And I particularly liked the question you asked towards the end: how do we achieve this during the crucible of staying home and this time of uncertainty? At least that's the way I took it in.
Yeah.
Do you have some suggestions for the kind of practice we might have during this time? Some practical things to do?
Yes. I mean, for one thing, just to do your practice. That's the main thing. To remember to do the practice. So that, it's not a great, huge, new, exciting suggestion, but it is at the core, just to remember to be present. And that's why I love that practice that Zwigan did during the day. And he would do it when he was sweeping or working in the garden or doing the things they do in Chan monasteries, just during the day, checking in. Am I here? Am I present? Am I awake? Because we often think we have to be something else, something other than who and what we are in any given moment. And actually, who and what we are is enough. It's enough to be present with who and what we are. So I would suggest just that simple practice. And then also, as much tenderness, however, if you've taken self-compassion and those practices, mindful self-compassion is hugely helpful right now. And loving kindness practice is hugely helpful right now. Just dropping, when you're walking around the house, just with your footsteps, dropping in some phrases, peaceful, safe, healthy, loving, free, just calm, release, present moment, only moment. I think that the reminder to stay present is what I was wanting to share today and really emphasize. So thank you.
Okay. I have a little phrase.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a little phrase I use sometimes when I'm starting to mentally complain about my husband, especially. I switch to, may you be peaceful. May you be peaceful. And then I start saying it for myself.
Yes.
It shifts my mood completely.
Yeah, it's really important to say it for yourself too, though, Marilyn, not just for him. Because I know that sometimes, and I'm not, I don't know your husband and I don't know your relationship, so this is not a comment on you, but I know sometimes for me, I might say, may he be peaceful when he's annoying me. And I want him to be different than the way he's being.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And so really then the question is, may I be peaceful? Or how may I be peaceful? Yeah. Thank you.
May I be peaceful in spite of his being so annoying.
Exactly. Exactly. You got it.
Yeah. But for me, I know that's usually what teachers say, do the metta for yourself first. But for me, the most effective way to turn off the tap of complaints, right?
Yes.
The flowing
Yes.
of different ways that he really should be different, is to say, may you be peaceful. May you be peaceful.
You know, this is where I always say whatever works. And the definition of what works is whatever helps you stay present in a reasonably kind and steady way. And that's called making the practice your own. And that's beautiful. Thank you.
I wanted to know, actually, jumping off from this exchange, like what practices you and your partner, this is like a question to anyone, like if you want to write in the chat, or Trudy, with you and Jack, or anyone that you're living with, or anyone that you love, like how do you like mindfully engage together and grow love? Like what kind, like how do you like intentionally do that together? What does that look like?
Does anybody want to answer Akemi before I jump in? Just.
Oh yeah. Yanti?
Hi, we do meditate together and try and do yoga together, but that doesn't always happen. My husband's on his own schedule, and you kind of have to be mindful of him doing his own thing and me doing my own thing. We try to do those things together, but it's also, I agree with what Marilyn said. I mean, sometimes it requires a lot of patience and a lot of like letting go. That helps for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Extending our hugs. I love that.
I just want to add that for Jack and me, what helps is talking with each other. And some people, I think, are adding their responses. Yes, 90-second pause, etc. It helps to talk. And so sometimes at the end of the day, if there have been maybe more than the usual annoyances that come up, like actually yesterday was a day when I got on Jack's nerves. I know the days when he's gotten on my nerves, but yesterday was a day when I got on his nerves. And, you know, it's just sometimes hard to watch our partners. He said, you know, I know what would be good for you, and then I didn't see you doing it. And and so that led to a whole conversation about that, you know, where I could say, yeah, and that sort of enrolls you as my parent. And then, you know, we could have a conversation with each other about what that was like and how it felt. And my experience is maybe, I don't know, maybe because we're older and we've had so much experience, but my experience is that the conversations don't usually have to last that long. It's not like you have to sit and process for hours or anything like that. So don't be afraid to have them. My friends Jen and Steve, Jen Surrey and Steve Bergman wrote a book called We Have to Talk for couples years ago. And they coined a term that I love. I think Steve coined this term. It was called relational dread. And he said, this is what a man or whoever might be the more avoidant one in a couple experiences when their partner says, we have to talk. They have an experience of relational dread. And I'm saying it doesn't have to be dreadful. It doesn't have to take that long, but talking to each other helps. Yeah, other people with hands up, just other kinds of questions.
Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Hey, Trudy, thank you for your share. So during this time, I've kind of made a retreat of this, staying inside, sitting 3 times a day. I'm also reading Joseph Goldstein's book, Mindfulness, which is pretty in-depth. And I just read that quote this morning that you quoted of his. So I think that's interesting. What I'm learning now is that a lot of my sits are just they're just distracting. Not each sit is calm and blissful. A lot of them are just a lot of noise. And I'm learning how to sit with that and discovering, well, that's that moment. And that's what that meditation is going to be distracting. And I just need to accept it because that's what we're doing. We're sitting in the moment and experiencing what's coming up. And basically, that's what's coming up, just a lot of noise. So could you share on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to sort of congratulate you because understanding that meditation isn't always going to be blissful or even pleasant. Is life always blissful or even pleasant? Meditation is just a slice of our life. So understanding that is important, Chris, and that's great. And then being with the noise in a way that allows you to be aware of what is aware of that noise. Because that which is aware of that noise, what I would call the host or whatever way that you conceive of that, but the awareness itself of the noise, that's what one of my former yoga teachers used to call the space between the skull and the brain. That space of awareness is where there's no noise. And it might just be the tiniest bit of your experience. But there are, there, and also between the breaths, if you're being with your, are you being with your breath?
Yes.
So if that's part of what you're doing to steady yourself in your meditation, then you can also begin to just be aware of the pauses between the breaths.
Okay.
Because in those pauses is just a little bit of stillness.
Yeah. Yeah. On those days or sits, I can't get past the breath into the Vipassana. It's just basically just following.
Yeah, but that's enough. Following the breath, for example, in Soto Zen, that's the whole practice, is being in the body, in the posture, going through the changes that happen in the body through holding that posture, and what arises in the mind and heart from holding that posture and breathing. And the only method is being present with the breath. If you ever read Suzuki Roshi's book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, it's probably my favorite book about meditation.
Okay.
And the whole thing really is based on simply being with the breath. So don't think that's a preliminary practice that you have to get past to be doing the real thing.
Okay. Works for me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Looks like Rand's got his hand up.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, Ran.
I love the talk. And I love the example of the monk and how not just when he's sitting, but during the day about his daily task. Where am I? Am I present? Am I awake? I always have that intention. It's not new news, but I forget.
Of
Any
course.
ideas of how to keep that awareness? I mean, I used to have practices like, okay, whenever I touch a door handle, be present. Notice, the mundane things we do normally.
Yeah, those are good things.
Yeah, just, oh, I'm present when I'm holding the handle on the door, etc. Yeah. But I forget too. So any ideas of how to do that? How to keep present mindedness?
So the thing is, we want to be present all the time, 24/7. But in actuality, almost nobody is. So what is that? Since I am speaking, from the Chan tradition this morning, in the Heart Sutra, it says, it's talking about, well, many things, but it says no ignorance and also no extinction of it. I'm using ignorance here as a synonym for forgetting. No ignorance. And then it says, and also no extinction of it. In other words, we're not going to get rid of forgetting,
Correct.
but how do we work with forgetting? Do we berate ourselves when we come back to being present? Oh my God, I forgot again. Or do we realize, oh, this is part of the process, forgetting and waking up, just like going to sleep at night and waking up in the morning. We don't stay awake 24/7. We need to sleep and rest. And forgetting is maybe not as nourishing as sleep. I don't know what neurological function it would perform. You'd have to ask Rick Hansen about that, which would be a great question, actually. Is forgetting a way of resting? I think my intuitive sense is not, is that it's the habit, deep habit of distraction. But then the forgetting, if you are holding the forgetting as part of the process, Ran, and you're really saying, oh, okay, forgetting is what helps me remember. If I didn't forget, I wouldn't remember.
Oh.
It's part of it. Night and day, whatever we say, up and down, black and white. It's part of it. Treble bass, the rhythms, breathe in, breathe out, the rhythms of life itself. And I think if you hold it that way, everything that we can positively connote, that we can give a positive meaning to, is actually easier to let go of. There may be less forgetting once it isn't bothering you. I'd be interested to see. But I think seeing forgetting and remembering as a couple that are dancing together all day long.
Okay.
Yeah, try it. You've been practicing a long time, so yeah.
I'll
Thank you.
report next week.
Thank you.
Okay, go for it, Alexa.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely, yes.
Hi, Trudy. Thank you so much for your talk. It really cheered me up to see your face and hear your words and see all the nice faces out there.
Good.
I have something I'm trying to understand. On the one hand, in the meditation teachings, I've understood that, one, for example, sits and watches the thoughts go by like clouds or like, a train going by, which sort of gave me the idea that those are not me.
Exactly.
But you were saying, weren't you, that those are me and that there's not a duality?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I prefer, to be honest, to think that those aren't me, because those are such crazy,
Well, let's just, I don't know if this is going to work, but it just popped into my mind, so I'll try it, because, you're willing to try, and so here we are, and it's really nice to see you. Like your two dogs behind you on the couch sleeping, right? They're your dogs. They are part of the landscape of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you experience oneness with them at times when you're, snuggling together or just having a good dog moment with each other. But so I think that they're you and they're not you. And that's, I think, about, it's like our thoughts. If we thought of our personality, sometimes, I forget which teacher, Jack says this often, but I forget who used to talk about our personality as our pets. That if we could just have that much distance and consider our whole personality, this whole character that I call, Trudy, or that you call Alexa, if we could just consider that the way we consider our pets. Sometimes we're close, and sometimes we're not, and sometimes they're annoying, and sometimes they're a source of great pleasure and affection. Because it's a great question and I welcome it, but what you're pointing to is that both are true. Our thoughts are not who we are in the deepest sense of understanding who we are. In the deepest sense of understanding who we are, everything is us.
So are they more like pimples that we have to put up with? Because the dogs never really annoy me.
Okay.
I know what you mean. we're one. I mean, I love everything they do, you know? So, I mean, are like the thoughts, um, I mean, they're so troublesome so much of the time. And
Yes,
I don't want them to be, I don't want them, you know. Um,
they are.
I mean, I understand that they're part of my landscape. I guess I have a hard time, it's so basic, but I have a hard time accepting them and not wanting them to go away.
I think that's it. I think that's it. I think you just, got that moment there, because the accepting them doesn't have to mean liking them. A lot of our thoughts, I know from myself, a lot of the thoughts that run through my mind, I really am not, I don't want them there.
Mm.
And it doesn't further my life in any way to believe them.
Mhm.
It's usually some paranoia about why somebody did something and how it was aimed at me when it had nothing to do, it's that kind of stuff where we take things personally that were not personal.
Mhm.
And even if they were, it's better not to take them personally and understand that's that person's distress or whatever they're going through in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And you will discover over time that your thoughts do change, that you have more loving thoughts, more compassionate thoughts, more maybe bright and cheerful thoughts than you used to have. I find that the loving kindness practice really helps with that, that it has the power to begin to orient our hearts more toward that which brings, which gladdens our hearts.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you do that practice, but that might be one to focus on for a while, and then just notice if there's a shift in the quality of your thoughts. Like once when I was in a metta retreat, where that's what we were doing day and night for 6 weeks, metta, 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 metta. And it was to explore certain states of absorption and concentration. But I remember the metta jhanas that I was exploring were taught by this Burmese master, U Pandita, who was very strict about retreat. Like you could only sleep 4 hours a night. And for me, 5 hours worked fine because I was meditating all day. Not like I was going to work and, housekeeping or whatever. But 4 was too little. And 4 would put me on that edge of irritability and reactivity, which is, of course, where he wanted us. So that we could learn about it and how to work with it. And I just remember one night I went to sleep and I woke up having a dream that U Pandita, by the way, this was completely out of character and would never have happened, that U Pandita was sitting on the edge of my bed, tapping me gently on the shoulder and smiling like the tenderest, most amazing, sweet parent and saying, "It's been 4 hours. It's time to wake up." Now that was the metta practice that generated that dream, because like I said, that was not his, that wasn't his personality at all. And it was 4 hours. And I thought, oh, this is the activity of loving kindness, that creating that kind of transformation. Now, you don't have to be doing it day in, day out. You're not trying to generate amazing dreams of tender people waking you up, but just to begin to, establish a different habit for the heart where it's going more toward those thoughts. My first teacher said, thinking is suffering. Anytime we're lost in thought, no matter what kind of thought, it's just that we only experience it when the thoughts are negative. Thank you for that question. It could be a whole nother Dharma talk, and maybe it will be. So thank you. Yeah.
Go ahead, Diana.
Thank you. Thank you for calling on me. I have often thought over the last maybe, I want to say 4 or 5 years, of wanting the results of my meditation and anticipating I'm going to have those results. And little by little, I had them, they've gone away. And now what I'm hearing is, that's right. I hear them, I see them, whatever, and then they go away. So I that is giving me a concrete rather than, am I awake or I'm not awake? It's just the sense of I have something to say internally about what I'm doing or going to do. And that gives me a sense of, you know what? This is a way of, this is a study. This is a way of having a study in my life. And it focuses me when I'm willing. I'm not always, I'm willing, I want to, I'm willing, and I don't. That happens lots of times while I'm doing this. And I know that what I know is that I need it for my own sanity. And I need it so that I can believe me and take in what I want to and not take in what I don't want to, and have a way of being able to set it aside, just set it aside. You'll pick it up again, or don't pick it up again, because none of that is where I'm wanting to go. I'm just wanting to be friendly to my thoughts, even though you said they're not so friendly, but I want to be friendly to the practice, because the practice is what I hear. I hear that word. Let's do the practice. Well, yeah, and so this has given me some sort of a platform, some sort of a open, closed door activity, or learning to go to no activity, or no, you can't do that, but
Yeah, you can.
You can?
Yeah, that's really what you're describing in a way. When the thoughts are vanishing and
Yeah.
they're not there, and you're not trying to bring them back, and all you're trying to do is be the friendly awareness, and befriending thoughts that are unpleasant, befriending them all equally is a powerful practice. And you could, yes, that's an activity, but there are moments when nothing's happening and you're not interfering with that nothing, and you're just you're just there. And those moments of no activity are really to be treasured. They're not a problem. They're very peaceful, and they are a Dharma doorway into understanding a different dimension of our experience. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Looks like Lenny.
Yes. Hi.
Lenny, hi, Lenny's in London, by the way. And
Yes.
Lenny, can I just tell them Lenny? Lenny and I went to nursery school together.
Whoa.
They used to call preschool. Our parents were dear friends, and when I was little, lived across the street from each other. And it's amazing that we still know each other.
Yes, and our parents were friends throughout their whole lives together, very, very close. So it's really interesting. Trudy, I'm doing pretty good, except I feel this compulsion in the morning. I should find out the news. This is being responsible. I should find out what's happening with the virus and what's happening with Trump, and it's always awful. And Joe, my partner, Joe, he doesn't even want to know it anymore. He doesn't have any problem letting go of it. And I want to know how you handle being in this world at this time, and and having some equanimity with whatever what's going on MSNBC.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Thank you. And for you, Lenny, your whole life of being a political activist, I think makes it even more compelling for you, because, you've done that work your whole life, and of organizing and being an activist and so forth. And what I would say, it's kind of like what I was saying, that the U Pandita quote about developing a heart that's ready for anything. The way that we develop a heart that's ready for anything is not by subjecting our hearts to barrages of daily news and so forth. It doesn't help. I mean, we've all tried it. We've all done it, right? And we've discovered, no, that's not the way. It doesn't help. So I think that the main thing for you would be if you could not do it first thing in the morning. You know, that's like if you could first wake up and have a cup of tea, whatever you drink there in London, and
Meditate, yeah.
meditate first, you know, and then because you are who you are and you've always, you know, done beautiful, important work in this sphere, then yeah, check in, see what's happening. But you don't need to do it first thing. Pour that into your consciousness, because then when you meditate, you know what you're going to be meditating about: the virus, Trump. You know, that's why people practice seclusion and go into retreat, so that they can have a chance to protect the mind and heart, so they can discover, so we can discover what's truest in our hearts, as opposed to reacting to everything that's coming from the outside.
Right.
And
Right.
and if we really believe and trust that the best preparation for what's coming is to be as wholeheartedly present, skillfully now, then it's also practical too. It's like, what's the best, you know, how are we going to emerge from this time? Can we emerge stronger than we went in? Can we create a new way of being together, more united, less polarized, more compassionate? We've seen so much compassion in action around the globe. You know, by strengthening these qualities in our hearts, I feel like we're preparing ourselves to lead and support something new happening in the world, something that is hopefully better for us as humanity.
Yes,
So,
no, that helps. Yeah, that helps a lot. Because I know that that it's important to know what's happening and to be aware of it. But
yeah.
but you need to be strong in preparation in terms of
Exactly. And you know, one in a couple is enough. You're being aware. Joe doesn't have to be. You're doing that epistemic labor for the two of you, actually. And it's fine. Just don't do it first thing in the morning, even though you're dying to find out. You know what you're going to find out.
Well, no, I agree with you. Although I keep thinking that a responsible person figures out what's the level of virus this morning or whatever, and I see Yanni keep shaking her head like, don't do it.
You can be, it's not either or. You can be responsible. You just don't have to be responsible the second you get out of bed.
Yeah. Yes. No. And I do feel like this period of time is every day is like a meditation. I go through as many emotions as I would if I were in some retreat, and it's such an amazing experience. And some days are awful, and then some days, I mean, but it's like every day. And sometimes I don't know about you guys, but I don't remember what day it is. I mean, sometimes I forget. Are we on the weekend, or are we on the weekday, or where are we? So it has that kind of feeling that on the one hand, my life is like a meditation. So
Right. Exactly. And that's what I was exactly talking about at the beginning, Lenny, where I was saying, you know, this is an enforced retreat, and we're going through the changes that people go through when they are secluded from their habitual ways of living.
Yeah.
So some people are going to be sorry when we aren't secluded anymore. No, my inner introvert is going to be sorry. But anyway, let's sit for a moment together, all of us, and thank you for that question. And Lenny, read the chat thread because people are saying things to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So at the end of a period of study and practice together, we express our gratitude for having the blessing of spending this kind of time. And we're studying when we meditate, when we listen to teachings, when we kind of turn them over in our own minds and hearts. And this is study and practice. And this is what we're doing. And so how can we then express our gratitude for the privilege of time and the luxury of having teachings and teacher and community to practice with? How do we express our appreciation and gratitude for this? And we do it by an act of imagination. We imagine that we are sharing the blessings with all beings everywhere, without exception. May we and all beings be present here and now with as much steadiness from this time. So thank you, everybody. Akemi, if you have any announcements, this would be a good time. And I will see, and Akemi will also unmute you so we can all say hi. I will see some of you Thursday night and everybody else next Sunday.
Yeah,
Akemi.
one quick thing. If you haven't heard already, we're super excited to have Byron Katie coming for a day of online practice on Saturday, May 16th. So I'm putting the link to that in the chat box, and we'd love to see you there. And that's all.
Okay, good.
So go ahead and unmute everyone.
Yeah, so we can all say hi.
Thank you.
Good day, everybody.
Hello.
Wonderful.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Effie, hi.
Look,
Heidi.
Carol, what is happening?
Hi, baby. How are you, Dee Dee?
Bye. Thank you.
Call me Diana.
Yeah.
Have a good day, everyone. Call me, Dee Dee. Let's talk.
Love you. Bye.
Love you.
Good day.
Call me.
Bye, bye.
Bye, Dee Dee.
To me.
Maddie.
Hi.
Lovely to see you, sweetheart.
You too.
We'll speak. Hug, hug.